Let's talk about free will versus determinism. We're going to start off by imagining that you have two identical billiard ball tables. Here you see these purple balls sitting here in this arrangement, and you see this green one. You see over here an identical situation to the first one. Now imagine if on these two identical tables, there's no difference. Every atom in the table is exactly the same. This green cue ball is hit in the exact same way with the same speed, same angle, same everything on both tables. Both of these tables are exactly the same. What happens next? Well, if these tables are exactly the same, and the beginning conditions are exactly the same, and the initial strike is exactly the same, then what happens next on each table should be exactly the same. In other words, there should be no difference between table 1 and table 2. Whatever happens on table 1 should be mimicked on table 2. What does that let us know? It means that even if we just have one table, then everything that happens on that table is entirely determined by the initial setup and the initial strike. Now, imagine for a moment, instead of talking about one billiard ball table, we're thinking of all the atoms in the universe as billions and trillions of tiny little billiard balls. At some point at the beginning of the universe, they were arranged in some way. Then something happened, setting them in motion. If those atoms are like billiard balls, then everything that happens after that initial moment is already determined from the very beginning. In other words, what's going to happen was already determined from the very beginning. That idea is called determinism, and it says that all future events are basically already predicted. Whatever you do was already determined by the initial conditions of the universe and the initial thing that set everything in the universe into motion. That means if determinism is true, if this idea is true, then whatever you choose was already written into the fabric of the universe from the very beginning. If you decide to do something totally random right now because you're hearing this video, again, even that was determined from the beginning of the universe. This is the philosophical idea of determinism. Now, obviously, determinism creates a bit of a problem for us because it makes it seem that we don't have any free will. If everything in the universe is already set, then you don't really have freedom of choice. Whatever you're doing is already preemptively determined billions of years before you were even born. The struggle between the idea of free will and determinism, can you have free will inside of determinism? What does free will really mean? All of these are fundamental ideas that have been part of philosophy since the ancient Greeks. And it's going to be something you'll see woven through many different historical time periods, many different philosophical discussions. It's going to be a major part of most of Western and, for that matter, a lot of Eastern thought. So again, determinism is the idea that everything has already been determined by the very initial situation of the universe, and it creates a question for us, which is, can you have actual free will?